All right, everybody, welcome back to the Skeptic Fence Show. Now it's our guest segment, and tonight's guest is a really awesome guest, and I just got done finishing his book, which is A Manual for Creating Atheists, instructor of philosophy and author, Dr. Peter Boghossian. Thank you, sir, for coming on the show tonight. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
No, man, this is great. So what I want to do right now, Paul, I think you got a short bio we're going to go over real quick and
Yeah,
introduce Peter Boghossian here.
yeah. I wanted to introduce him as Dr. Peter Boghossian is a full-time faculty member in the philosophy department at Portland State University and an affiliate faculty member at Oregon Health Science University in the Division of General Internal Medicine. He's a national speaker for the Center of Inquiry and the Secular Student Alliance, an international speaker for the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science as well. Boghossian, has an extensive publication which is across multiple domains of thought. He is currently serving as a fellow for the Global Secular Institute's think tank. His best-selling book, which you said, A Manual for Creating Atheists, is available here on Amazon, and we should have a link later on, huh?
Yeah, what we're going to do is when this video comes out, of course, I will put, Peter, I'll put all your information down there, the website, and Amazon link and all that stuff, so people can please, guys, go support Peter here, and please purchase his book. It's a really good book, and we're going to get into the interview here. Anything you want to say, Peter, before we get on to the Q&A?
I just wanted to say thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and feel free. You can ask me any question about anything, and you don't have to restrict it to the book. And if I don't know the answer, I'll just say I don't know.
Great. Excellent. Guys, also, the people that are watching, the viewers there, guys, if you have a question for Peter, I did, offer it in the promotion video. But if you do, message me here, Skeptic Fence in Vaughn Live TV, and just message me. And please, you guys, send an IM. Just don't type it in chat because I don't watch chat. I only watch chat maybe 2% of the time of the show. So yeah, let's get on with the Q&A here. First question I have real quick is in chapter 5 you started, and this is a question I have too. Do you think we should be allowed to get stoned?
Oh, you mean what's my personal opinion about that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't smoke pot anymore. I did many moons ago. But yes, I do. I think that people should have the right to get stoned. No, yeah.
I got to open up with a little comedic value there. But yeah, what I want to really get into right now is I want to your book, A Manual for Creating Atheists. It's not. I'm like, this is what I really got out of it. And correct me if I'm wrong, please. It's not a book about proselytizing to the religious, to deconvert them, to go out there and hit these people. It's not like, street epistemologists are going to become like street preachers in that type of approach when it comes to religion, that religious approach. This book, I see, it's more of a book where you detail the tools and methodologies a non-believer can use to combat what you would call the faith virus, using the Socratic method in stages. I believe in chapter 5 that was also. Would that be accurate? A brief overview, and please feel free to expand on that.
Yeah, I think that's right. The tools in the book and the template in the book gives people a way to help liberate others of the faith virus, to help them embrace lives of reason and cast off superstition and faith. That's it in a nutshell. Nothing more than that.
That's great, man. It's easy. Next question I have for you is, what basically motivate you to create a book like this, and how long did the research take in your endeavor there on that book?
Oh, what motivated me was frankly that at one level I feel really bad for people who have caught the faith virus, and I want to help them. I wanted to do something for them, and they're trapped in faulty ways of knowing the world, and they're hurting themselves and their communities. And another level, I saw the chaos that the hosts of the faith virus have they've really done a number on society, and they've done a number in democracies. And I wanted to do something at the grassroots level where I could use my particular, maybe even unique skill set. I've been thinking about this a long time. As you know from the acknowledgments, I had a lot of people help me research the book, but I've been basically doing exactly this with one thing or another for well over 25 years in many different domains and many different environments. But really, I tell you with total sincerity that the motivation from the book was to help people, was to make a contribution to leave the world a better place.
Very well said. Yeah, but what I want to do is expand on what you said in the beginning. There is the faith virus. Can you expand on that? What is the faith virus? Can you give you? I mean, it seems like it's pretty cut to. It's pretty easy to understand. But explain that the faith virus.
Sure, I want to be absolutely positively crystal clear. I've said this before in my public work. I did not originate the phrase the faith virus. I did not coin it. I did not create it. It's just something that's already existing in the literature. In fact, there's a pretty extensive pedigree of literature around this idea that faith is a virus. Dawkins and Brody and others and Del Rey, and how faith propagates as a virus. And looking at it that way is helpful, both because it's useful and because we can use in Chapter 9, and thank you very much for reading the book. Chapter 9, I talk about containment protocols. I believe that we need to look at faith as an epidemiological problem at a macro level. At a micro level, we need to look at faith and how to contain that by giving people micro inoculations of reason to help them disabuse themselves of superstition, faith, and faulty epistemologies, basically bad ways of thinking about the world.
Excellent. Yeah, that's excellent, man. Thank you for clarifying that. It's great. Next question I have is what is a street epistemologist, and what is the role of a street epistemologist in your book? Like, how is that role? How do we approach that or become a street epistemologist?
People can make of that what they will. Some people post videos online and go to the Facebook Street Epistemology page and record their conversations, and I have I can't even tell you how many conversations I've had from people. They've emailed me, and I carry around my phone, and I record all the conversations that I have when I help to disabuse people or help liberate people of the faith virus, and then I just transcribe those or just type them out. But people can take this to any level they want. They can take it they can go out and try to help people that way, or maybe just a close friend has been infected with the faith virus, or maybe someone they know, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, or a family member who suffers from faith, and they want to help that person. So you can take it to any level you want. There's no right or wrong way. There's no I mean, some people like to only work with in fact, it was just in LA, and some people only like to work with preachers. So there's no right or wrong approach to how you can help liberate people of the faith virus. It's really up to the reader. Yeah, I mean, up until now, we've not had any tools. Nobody's put together a toolkit. Nobody said, well, how do you deal with people of faith, or how do you engage them, or what do you say? Or, I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it that nobody, you meet someone who believes in homeopathy or astrology or what have you, and there's never been a guide for how to deal with that. There's never been nobody ever put something like that together. So that's what I wanted to do. And what the idea behind that was that if we can get enough people on board, then I can't remember which chapter this is, but we can deliver these, again, micro-inoculations, these small mini conversations, these mini interventions where we can help disabuse people of radical silliness. A radical and harmful silliness, I'd add.
And harmful, yeah, exactly. No, I totally agree with that. I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here, and
Please,
I believe
I like that the best.
Now, let's say I'm a religious person with a moderate belief, okay, meaning that religion plays no role in my humanism, okay. Basically, I'm pro-choice, I'm pro-gay rights, and so on. I think you get the gist there.
Yes.
Now, let's say my religion is all about a second life, heaven, and comfort once in a while, which you do touch on the comfort issue in your book. Now, my wishful thinking only applies to this issue in afterlife, or maybe a little comfort. Maybe somebody's not around, I need that comfort, and I read the Bible. Should we combat these types of people? Should we still talk to these types of people? Or should we say, hey, listen, their religion makes them feel better about themselves? Should we combat these types of people, I should say?
Well, it's not up to me to say, after people read the book, who they should not help disabuse ideas of. I mean, it's not my role. I'm not some kind of a epistemological demagogue.
And I think I used combat in the wrong way. I didn't mean combat is go out there and pick a fight combat. I think combat them if we have a discussion with these types of people. So let me clarify that. I don't want to say that we should go out there and combat these people. So let me clarify that. I mean, like if there was a person I was talking to and they came to you and said, this is their life about how would you approach that? Should we approach these types of people and have the discussions with them, or just say their faith is okay and not really talk too much to them about? Or
No, their
you
faith
know what I mean?
is not okay, and we need to help them. I mean, that's my view. You asked me for my view, but again,
Absolutely.
readers of the book could do anything they want. It's not. Again, I don't want to be a demagogue, but one thing we may want to think about is this idea of triaging, and perhaps we should help people. We haven't talked about doxastic closure or anything, but perhaps we should help people who are suffering from very severe types of faith, or perhaps we should help people who are later down the line in their process of liberating themselves of faith. It's not up to me to say with whom you should speak. Again, anybody can read the view of a brother who has someone of faith, but they're akin to the person you describe. Implicit in your question, however, is this idea that the things that they believe really are innocuous. And I would challenge and question that. Every religion, and I don't know any exceptions to this. I could be wrong. I don't know. There were over 2,000 religions, so maybe I'm wrong, but almost part and parcel of what it means to be a religion is to have at least one set of superstitions or one set of propositions about the world. And so once that happens, people are believing things, empirical claims. They're believing things about the world on the basis of insufficient evidence. And once that happens, that's problematic both for their cognitive structure, because it could leach out into believing other superstitious beliefs or other things without evidence. But it's also problematic, as Sam Harris and others have extensively written about, that gives cover for more fundamental people who are more fundamentalists in their orientation. Although I don't like the word fundamentalist, there's an interesting history of the word. But so my bottom line answer is that just because somebody has the faith virus and the virus happens to like liberation theology, Latin, it was you could trace the history of liberation theology in Latin America in the 90s, et cetera, late 80s. But just because somebody happens to have a set of beliefs that they hold on the basis of faith that are not monstrous, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, that no other inferences can be made from that.
I do have one more question we might come back to, but Paul, I know you got about 5 or 6 questions, so have at it, man.
All right. Well, the first question I wanted to ask him is because he talked about Deepak Chopra in his.
We want to ask him. We want to ask him. He's right here, so we want to ask him.
So, Peter, do you have any favorite Deepak Chopra online quote generations?
No,
if you've ever used it.
I'll be blunt. I think he's a total fraud and a complete charlatan. And he, as I mentioned in my TAM talk, he peddles his lucrative nonsense to people. He takes advantage of people. And I think he's a complete and total disgrace.
There you go.
Wow. That's well, that answers that pretty well. One thing I wanted to ask you about, because I personally have dealt with people who say that they know Jesus in their heart, and that that's why they believe these really weird, insane things about reality. And I wanted to know what you think is the best approach for that, to try to help them really see reality and not just, oh no, but I know it because I feel him in my heart. I feel him in my soul.
Yeah, there are about, I think I've narrowed it down to 8 or 9 responses for that. It depends on the person. It depends on the degree of, again, using the model of the book, the trans-theoretical model, it depends where they are. It depends on your relationship. There are a lot of variables. I'm hesitant to say that there's one best thing because it's context dependent, but you can ask a series of questions to undermine that belief. Usually, the less thoughtful people, or the people who haven't had any apologetics training, will say things like, I feel Jesus in my heart. Other people will more, as Jerry Coyne says, sophisticated theologians. I just wrote a paper about that. It is a nice little phrase to Google as well, sophisticated theologians. What they'll do is they'll say things like, well, I have the witness of the Holy Spirit in my heart, and I have confidence that that witness is true. So, by the way, it's kind of like a Google search. Just by the way that you enter a search into Google, it will give you a different set of results based upon your entry. The way people frame that question, then the response to them that you give is different depending on that. So if they say, I have Jesus in my heart, well, we could talk about that. And then you can, again, I hate to throw one-liners, but you could ask, well, does Jesus communicate with you? Does he talk to you? Can you tell him to please tell you the cure for cancer? Or, there are a lot of people suffering. Maybe he could help you develop some salve or analgesic to help children burn victims or something. So give us some new information. And Victor Stenger has written about that and spoken about that extensively. The other thing you could do when people come up with these claims is you can ask them a very sincere question, because I always want to know how people know that. And I always want to know, as John W. Loftus has said, why is that experience different in different people? You'd think that it would be this homogenous, this monolithic experience, but that's not the case at all. And then I'd also want to know why different people of different cultures make certain claims like that when clearly they can't all be right. The theologian Alvin Plantinga has tried to rationalize, he's tried to create his own epistemology based upon his inner states. He thinks that somehow the feelings that he has accurately map onto the terrain of external reality. But the fact of the matter is, your subjective feelings, the things that you think that you feel in your heart, there's just no evidence whatsoever that they map onto the terrain of reality. In fact, not only is there no evidence for that, but we can look at a lot of people who feel a lot of things in their heart, and we know they can't all be correct because they make conflicting claims. So you can try to sow doubt and undermine the idea that way, but again, it depends on the state of closure and what kind of training, how much of a thoughtful and examined life they've led.
Wow. Okay. Thanks. Actually, that really helps. It gives me a starting point to go with the discussion, because usually it's just that just closes it down. There's nothing more than it's in my heart. So that gives me a way at least exploring, well, okay, what do you mean by that and that? Because I know everyone has different views on it. Everyone, God is different for everyone, which is why it's so hard to
No, that's you
boil
want
it down.
No, listen, this is important. You want that. You want that response, it's in my heart. You want that. Once that's happened, they've engaged you. So that's good, because that's a foothold. That's a place where you can have a linguistic hook, if you will, something to latch onto so that you can then further the discourse.
Yeah, like you state in your book, it's like you want to talk about faith. I'm like, you really don't want to really touch on. You want to ask them why they believe and really come at it at a knowledge perspective, the Socratic method, like you state in your book. So you really want to get them talking about their faith, correct?
Yeah, not only talking about their faith, but not doubting their doubts. Doubt is good, and we need to help people shift the entire way that they conceptualize problems, not only epistemologically but morally. We need to help plant the seeds so that people can value things. People with whom we're speaking, can value things like belief revision, or they can value, instead of thinking that faith is a virtue, switching it from the moral domain to the epistemological one, to a realm of knowledge. And also that questioning, re-examination, falsification, that these things are virtues. And one of the things you'll find is, if most people are really, truly sincere and honest and open with themselves and authentic and genuine, then you're only really helping them voice the doubts that they already had. The problem is that the virus is mimetic. The problem is that they get sucked into these communities with people who also have the virus, and it's turned into a virtue. So we need to intervene appropriately in the cognitive, and we see this in the literature with prison inmates. We need to intervene appropriately, and we need to help them at that stage of change. And that's in the book, how to do that and how to really target your intervention so that they can relish the fact that they doubt things, not fear their doubts, not push their doubts away, not hide their doubts. And also, you had mentioned before this idea that there's something internal, there's a spirit that lives in me. We need to help people realize that that's a delusion. That's a very dangerous, pernicious delusion.
I agree.
Yeah, that they have a soul inside of them, and it's their actions will somehow jeopardize it.
Yeah, or they have somebody else, the witness of the Holy Spirit. They have something living within them. I mean, that's aside from being creepy and just genuinely weird.
Yeah.
Tapeworm.
Yeah, tapeworm. Yeah, that's something that we know. We can help people overcome that delusion.
Absolutely. It's I went through this, and Peter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you one video to my YouTube video I did. I did a 6-part series. I was married to a born again Christian. She was in the middle of losing her faith. She broke down, stuff like that. So it's really cool. Set that aside. We'll talk about that later. Paul, any more questions?
May I interrupt you?
Sure, sir.
I'd like to suggest an alternative phrasing of that. You, instead of losing, usually if you lose something, you want it back. Like if you lose your car keys. So she was in the middle of the process of coming to reason, or she was in the middle of the process of abandoning her faith. But I don't like the word lose there.
Yeah, and you do say this in your book, and that's one thing actually I did learn from your book, and I should have just thought before I spoke there. But no, you're 100% right there. I totally agree with you on that. And stuff happens, but we're not going to get into that. But I'll forward you a link if you're interested in that, because it's a really cool story.
Did you? If can I ask you a personal question? Is that okay?
Sure. No, absolutely, man. Ask away.
Are you married to her?
I think we're still legally married. Yeah, I was married to her. Yeah.
You're separated?
Yeah, we're separated. Yeah, it's been 2 and
Is she religious?
She went back to it because her parents are pastors of a church. So
she was reinfected, basically.
Oh yeah. Her parents reinfected her. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when she was losing her faith because of her marriage, her parents told her that no, you have to stay with this marriage. She was in an abusive relationship. Her ex-husband beat her up, beat the shit out of her like often, beat the kids, all that shit. So she finally had the courage to say, "No, mom, no, dad, I'm not going to stay in this marriage anymore." And she broke down mentally. She did break down mentally. She had a mental breakdown. She went to a psych ward for about, I think, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. She was on medication and she was fine. I met her. She's an old high school friend of mine from many, many years ago. So we knew each other. So long story short is that she was basically in the deconversion stage, because I do research a lot about deconversions, and she was in the deconversion stage when I met her, but I was an activist at the time. So what I know now, I didn't know 3-4 years ago when I was married to her. If I knew what I knew now, we'd probably be still married, because I would approach her in a different way. So it's sad that, I feel that way about it.
So first, I'm sorry about that. I really am truly sorry about that. That's never an easy thing. It's hard, and as you get older, it's harder. What's one of the things that
the kids were the worst part, coming home from church knowing I'm an atheist, because I was an outspoken atheist back then. She knew I was an atheist. She married me as an atheist. Her parents, non-denominational Christians. It was all about the relationship, not the book. And and then they would quote the book. So okay,
yeah. Well, if you look at the literature on cult exiting, and I list some of this in my book, but there's a mountain of really interesting literature. One of the ways that people become reinfected is that they go back into those communities. That's why it's really important to help us sever those links to the other hosts of the faith virus and substitute our own secular. It doesn't even have to be secular. It doesn't even have to be humanist, but just people who aren't infected. It could be bowling. Could be jujitsu, could be science fiction TV, could be anything you want.
Hobbies,
Quilting. I know a guy who's a master quilter. So as long as they don't go back into those societies or those communities with other hosts of the faith virus, then I think that increases the chance that they can liberate themselves of delusion. But again, we need to make we need to intervene with communities and friends and people. That's also, just parenthetically, going to be the subject of my next TAM talk. What goes in place once we've helped people to stomp out their own faith virus and to stomp out their pretty silly beliefs and superstitious beliefs? What takes that? What fills that gap?
No, I totally agree. And you hit the nail on the head when it comes to my wife. She felt comfort in that community. She was away from it. She wasn't going to church, but she had her kids, and she was told that she had to take her kids. She wasn't allowed to talk back to her parents whatsoever. She was not allowed to do that. She couldn't defend herself. And of course, I intervened, and I got a little pissed off. I didn't touch anybody or hit anybody, but I would yell at them, her parents. Paul, any more questions? I think you might have a couple more, right?
Yeah, actually, one thing that I want to touch on is how he came about his definition for faith, because one of the things that the Christians are arguing is that, of course, faith doesn't mean what Peter says it means. Faith means you know it because you have a good reason to know, which is like complete opposite of faith in pretty much all definitions I've heard. But I just want to see how how Peter, you came about coming up with the definitions you use when you're dealing with people who suffer from the virus.
Yeah, I think you
Sure,
touched
that's
that on chapter 2 too, all the definitions, which is great.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good question. I've never understood what is it that I mean. Every time I really can't understand something, I just step back and say, like, "Geez, is it me?" I was talking to my boss about that just the other day, interestingly enough, and I so it's a linguistic analysis of how people use the word faith. Like, I don't understand what is so complicated. I mean, I really seriously don't understand why people don't understand, or maybe they don't know what a linguistic analysis. I don't know. Maybe I assumed too much educate. I mean, I tried not to do that at all in the book.
People
But
are too educated, yeah, or not too
well, yeah, I
educated.
mean, maybe the fault is my own for not being. I don't want to say dumbing it down, but basically, to answer your question, it's a linguistic analysis of how people use the word faith. And actually, I just finished another piece about exactly that. What does it mean? You know, without being overly philosophical, there's some interesting philosophical literature by an Austrian philosopher named Wittgenstein and others about language use and what it means to use language and how you can look at the context and meaning of words and derive those. So that's how I didn't pluck that out of the sky. But even beyond that, there is, and I just tweeted about it the other day, there is overwhelming evidence that faith is pretending to know things you don't know. I mean, Dennett and Lascola published two pieces. That one of which is free. You can get it online. Preachers Who Are Not Believers. I talk about it in many of my public appearances. And then the new book about leaving the pulpit. It's on Amazon. You can get that. And there are entire communities of people who have admitted that they're pretending to know things they don't know. And these just aren't parishioners. These are clergy. These are the heads of clergy. Now, someone could, of course, come back and say, well, that's not faith. But, well, wait a second. well, wait a second, right? These are guys leading churches. So what do you mean? I mean, this is language as it's used. This is how people use it. And we know that faith is if it's not pretending to know things you don't know. And I can't give you a number of people. I can't say where this is more prevalent. We also know that many people harbor some pretty serious delusions about these things. And the commonly accepted one that I, for the life of me, cannot understand why even Christian apologists and theologians, or I shouldn't have said apologists, but theologians like Plantinga and such, and it's the second time I've referenced him, but they're Lennox. There are too many to list. They don't even have the same idea or the same definitions of faith. C.S. Lewis, I read C.S. Lewis a few years ago, but it doesn't seem to me to be that complicated. This is the word faith. This is how people use the word faith, and that is a linguistic analysis. People are pretending to know things you don't know, and I actually have, not research that I did, but that Dennett did, there's actually empirical evidence for that. So I don't understand what the problem with that definition is.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I don't either. That's what I was saying, because what you said is what I've always really thought about faith. It's knowing, or it's believing something without really good reason, evidence to do it. To actually believe in it. And it's great that the people that they just want to bash your book because, of course, it's attacking their religion, as they always say, and they just want to say, oh, he just pulled it out of thin air. He has they actually said you had no empirical evidence for the definition. So it's like, okay, I gotta ask Peter, because I know he's going to be able to explain it. And
so here's the thing about the hosts of the Faith Fires. This is why we need to feel sorry for them. This is why they need our help. So it's a type of, without using too many $2 words, a type of presuppositionalism, and specifically among Christians, that they just start the discussion with presupposing that certain things are true.
Yeah, that they know absolute knowledge and stuff.
I mean, I think that's intellectually abhorrent, but I'm cool with that if people make that admission right from the get-go. If they say, well, look, I'm just going to presuppose that this is true, and then we can go from there. Well, at least someone's honest, right? Now I'm having a conversation with people who aren't trying to tell me that, I don't know, whatever it is that they're trying to tell me, that the delusions of the faith fires are many, of the hosts. So, what do people say when you say, well, You don't have empirical evidence? Well, here's empirical evidence. Or what if you did a linguistic analysis and they said, I mean, that is a type of mental gymnastic to insulate oneself so that one won't change one's mind. I mean, that is a perfect description of the mechanism of how the virus operates. The virus is lodged in such a way that it turns off in that one compartmentalized area faculty for critical reasoning, but not faculties for defending the faith virus. I mean, it really is, it's a fascinating sociological and anthropological phenomena.
Do you find that a lot of the people who play word games, and that's mainly, well, obviously they play word games, twisting of the words, but is that a big problem with this, dealing with people doing the street epistemology, that you have a definition, but they always try to skirt around it? That's what politicians always seem to be doing. And whenever I talk to someone and I'm trying to argue about certain religious topics, they seem to, it's a, this word doesn't mean that. It means, like, we have faith that the sun's going to come up, that type of equivocation.
Okay. First of all, we know there's a sun. So I talk about this in the book, why that is not a legitimate use of the word faith. And again, I'm not trying to be the language police. I'm trying to be helpful. I'm not trying to be some kind of linguistic demagogue. I'm trying to be helpful so that we can clarify the meanings of our words. There's a real sun. We know that it comes up, unlike an invisible being. And I'm sorry, the first part of your question was what again? The first part of your comment?
Do you find that they use a lot of equivocation, a lot of word games?
Yeah, so here's what I find. I think that's a great question. I'm going to throw this out, and I hope all the Christian listeners really think about this. And again, I want to say the book was not meant to target Christians. It was meant to target every faith, every flavor and strain of the faith virus. It only seems that Christians are responding to it, and others who've been infected haven't been responding. That's why I say this. But to answer your question directly, here's what I found. The more sincere a person is about his or her belief, the less you deal with linguistic trickery. The more one is trained in theology or apologetics, or they don't really believe what they want to believe, but either they want to sound intelligent or justify it to themselves, the more deepities, and I mentioned that in the book, the more they try to play with language to obfuscate. That is a type of obfuscating. It's a type of insincerity with oneself, and it's a type of insincerity and inauthenticity with regard to one's own beliefs. They're trying to come up with ways to use floral language or what have you to protect themselves from being plain spoken and blunt so that their arguments aren't subject to reason. And they're also engaged in what the German philosopher Habermas calls a performative contradiction. They're trying to use language to do something that language just doesn't do. But again, I think it's primarily a question of sincerity. The more one uses words in a funky way or tries to hide or obfuscate, the less sincere one is, which means that they don't believe it themselves. Maybe they want to believe it, maybe they hope it's true, but they don't actually believe it.
I don't know. It's hard to try to get people to realize to get away from that. For me, whenever I'm dealing with them, they really, really, really love the equivocation games. They want to stick with they won't. I mean, it's hard to get them to actually accept the true meaning of something. Like when you're discussing evolution, and they do the straw man argument that we came from nothing. It's like that's not evolution at all. But for me, it's always hard trying to mess with the equivocation games and mess with the straw man arguments they're doing, and trying to get them to actually understand the true meaning behind words.
Yeah, or you could even look at it like this. You don't even need a true meaning. All you need is common ground. Again, the philosopher Habermas, I was just reading some Habermas, talks about the purpose of communication is mutual understanding. And so if we can perhaps arrive at a mutual understanding, but often when people are insincere or not honest, then they'll claim, their verbal behavior will claim that that's what they want to do, but that's not actually what they'll want to do. So in any discussion, honesty we have to be honest first, and we also have to clarify our terms so we know we're talking about the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Look, again, for those who are listening, you just have to be you don't have to tell anybody, you don't have to say anything, just be truly honest with yourself. Nobody's going to hear what you think. And really ask yourself, do you think that the stories in the particular book that you've read, you really think that there was a snake that talked? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Like really. And I got from my trip.
And an omniscient God didn't know that. Come on.
Yeah, I'm reading again Bart Ehrman's Misquoting Jesus.
I've read that a couple times myself. It's a good book.
Yeah,
Good read.
you know, this whole idea that there are more errors in the Bible, the translation errors and errors in the Bible than the words in the Bible. I mean, you really want to claim that that's sufficient? You really want to believe that if you fast, you know, that the Garden of Eden is in Jackson County, Missouri. Okay, you want to, so just be honest and sincere and open with yourself, and don't worry about your community, your family. And if you're committed to the truth, many people, maybe even most people, will see that that's just not true. Now, if you're not committed to the truth and you just want to believe things because they make you feel good, well, that's a different issue. We can have that discussion, but don't claim it's true. Claim it makes you feel good. Then at least you're being honest with yourself. You're not the vehicle of your own self-deception.
And like you stated about it 5,000 times in your book, pretending to know things you don't know.
Yeah, don't pretend to know things you don't know. So if someone asks you a question and you don't know, say you don't know. If you really do have these feelings of divinity or whatever it is, and I want to be very clear with you, I don't think people are lying when they say that. I don't think that there's that all these people get together and they say, well, you know, we have feelings of the divine, and I'm not doubting that they have those feelings. But the problem is, again, as we said before, many people have those feelings about many things, and we know that they can't all be correct. And maybe that's an evolutionary mechanism or a byproduct of something. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not a cognitive neuroscientist, and maybe they don't even know the answer to the question. But which is more likely? You know, how do you make or ascertain, or how do you assign confidence values to these sorts of things? And it has to begin with you being honest with yourself.
Ramen,
Thank
brother.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry.
Well
I misspoke
said, man.
with
That
the true meaning behind the word.
great.
I should have meant coming to agreement on what the meaning of the word actually is.
Yeah, no, that's fine. This is casual. It doesn't misspeaking. It doesn't make any
Doesn't
difference.
matter, man. And tonight's Paul's first time. He's my new host on the show. And Paul, just want to say you're doing an excellent job, man. So yeah, good stuff, man. So everybody, thumbs up for Paul, man. You're doing a great job, man. Excellent, brother.
Please don't be nervous. A really good, if I may offer you unsolicited advice, as long as you're willing to say I don't know when someone asks you a question that you don't know. You never have to worry about looking stupid. You never have to worry about being a fool. And if anybody makes you feel less because you said you don't know, they're not worth your time. They're not worth your friendship. They're not worth being on your podcast. To just move on. Life is too short. We get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Hey! Oh, by the way, real quick, Peter, guess what my little outro is on my videos I do on my personal YouTube channel? Live life because you only have one. I say that on every video for the last 3 years now. Every video. Over 250 videos.
Live life because you only have one. I'll give you some. I've been thinking a lot about. I only think about 4 or 5 things regularly, but corrective mechanisms, authenticity. I've really been thinking a lot about relationships lately, and the relationships I have with people, and how to really make relationships that matter. And it has to start in authenticity. It has to start with, you have to speak sincerely to somebody, and you have to be willing to sit and listen if they tell you something about yourself or something you don't like. And once you start casting off the fact that you think you have to be something or say something, or you go on a date with a woman or guy, whatever you're into, woman you're very attracted to, and she, you have to walk on eggshells, or you're worried about, dude, you gotta let that go, man. She's not worth it, or he's not worth it. You just have to live a more authentic life. And I don't only mean in terms of with regard to the way you look at your life or your self-examination, but I mean the way you treat people, the way you deal with people. And that's the other part of your question about what you asked before, about what about the moderate believers? Yeah, I don't think that the moderate believers actually believe what they're pretending. I think that they're pretending to know. I think many of
Oh,
the
I agree.
fundamentalists actually do believe it. I don't think they're pretending anything. I think they're full-blown delusional. But I think the part of that compromise, it's like a compromise of the epistemic structure, a compromise of the way we come to knowledge when we relax our standards of rationality. I think that that has reverberations in our moral life, reverberations in our personal life. I think that that's a kind of a toxin that starts seeping in. And once we lose that honesty and authenticity, one of the problems that happens, or one of the things that occurs, or we don't only hurt people, but we hurt ourselves. We hurt ourselves in a very profound way. We hurt ourselves because then we're not capable of having relationships with people that are based upon, again, the best word is authenticity. Relationships based on sincerity. If
Yeah.
somebody, because then we know when we say something that somebody else is going to know what we mean, and everybody's going to know what we mean if we're sincere. But if we're insincere, or if our desire for social justice, for example, or if our desire, if any of these desires or any of these hopes we have trump what's true, that's when our problems will begin. I mean, don't trade what you want to believe. Don't If you veer from being honest with yourself, everything in your life will fall apart. Everything. You won't have friendships. You won't have things that matter. You won't have people in your life you can trust. We need to help the people who aren't honest with themselves. We need to help the people who are pretending to know things they don't know.
Correct.
We need to help them know that pretending to know something you don't know is not a virtue. It's a poison in your life. It's a way to alienate you from other people and from yourself. And so these are the people we need to reach. These are the people who need our help.
But recently, there's been a couple videos. I'm not going to say who, but and I agree with them at a certain point. And there was this one girl, I'm not even going to say who it is, where she made a video telling atheists how they need to conduct themselves on the internet and how they should talk to certain people, especially when it comes to religious. And this one guy said, "Hey, listen, don't tell me how I should conduct myself. Don't tell me that I need to do things like this infight." And I don't want the infight. And I hate infight, man. I really do. I try to avoid as much as
You mean
possible.
the infight among atheists and between atheists?
Yeah, something like that, where you got atheists telling other atheists how to conduct themselves, and it's just this infight.
The fact, can I ask you how old you are? I know that seems like a total.
No, it's fine. I'm 40 years old. I just turned 40 in January.
Okay. Do you remember the Lawrence Welk show? Do you ever see that show when you were a kid?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, I'm 47, so you might have just missed it. But anyway, the bottom line is you can Google it. It was the worst show in the world, but they had a really interesting segment on the show. I'm answering your question. I'm not obfuscating.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, they had a really interesting question on that show. A really interesting segment. It was like, it said, "Follow the bouncing ball," and they had this like little red ball that went up and down the screen, and then they put the lyrics. And I didn't watch it since I was a kid. And then you had to sing along to the lyrics, and I guess they had notes or something, and my grandparents used to sing, and faith is the red ball. That's the red ball. I don't pay any attention to atheist infighting. I don't care about atheist infighting. I am completely committed and focused on the total eradication of the faith virus. So anybody can fight with any atheist. They can fight with me. You can accuse me. So I don't care what you do. You can harass me online. I just, don't kill me or anything. But
yeah, exactly.
I don't pay any attention to that. That's not following the red ball. We have a species-threatening event. We need to eradicate the faith virus. I'm not telling anybody not to infight or infight. I don't care about infighting. I don't read I read one blog, Jerry Coyne's blog. I don't read any other blogs. In case if one comes across my Twitter feed, I might listen. I don't care about atheist politics. I don't really even frankly care about the atheist movement. I could care less about it. I want the total eradication of the faith virus.
I used to get involved. I said, you know what? I said, I've changed in the last 7-8 months. I just say, I'm not dealing with this stuff anymore. Some people come to me and say, what do you think about this? Yeah, we got to stick together. There has to be some kind of unity. I really don't call it a community. I just say, friends with friends, and we're friends with certain YouTubers, and it's about supporting each other. But when I see this infight, this person making
don't
a
pay
video,
any attention to it.
yeah, I used to, but not anymore. I'm
It's
just
it's like watching American
It's non-productive.
Idol. It's just a total waste of time.
Yeah, it's non-productive.
Totally unproductive. It's not only is it unproductive because every time you're paying attention to them, I don't even know who these people are. Again, I am willfully and gleefully ignorant. Every time you're doing that, you're not helping feed kids who are hungry. You're not cleaning up the oceans. You're not doing things that matter. These things don't matter. They're not following the red ball. They're ways to sidetrack yourself.
There's no intellectual discourse.
There are ways to get derided from living authentically. So forget about it. It makes no difference. Just ignore it.
Yeah, there's no like I said, like I stated, there's no intellectual discourse to be had on most of them. I think there is some kind of intellectual discourse, and I'm all fine for that when it comes to the drama or the infighting. Yeah, let's have an intellectual discussion, a rational discourse, a civil discourse about it. Yeah, let's get people together and do that. And I understand that, but there's some things I've done that I regret, but I've learned a few things. And your book, in the last week I've read it, it's amazing. I've learned a lot from it, and it made me think my position on a few things. So, that being said, Doctor, I'm going to say Dr. Peter Boghossian, man, thank you very much, sir, man. Excellent interview, and I really enjoyed having you on the show, man. It was an honor, sir. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I really would like to thank you. I can't do this alone. I'm just one guy, and I'm trying to make a contribution. I'm really trying hard. I'm working all the time. I've started working out again since I've cut back on my workloads to try to take care of myself, because I also have 2 kids, and I'll be around longer. Hopefully I can see the end of the faith virus, but we're all in this together. So I guess my final words are just be honest, be authentic, just be sincere with yourself, be sincere with those people in your life. Don't worry about infighting. Don't worry about the bitterness and the hostility. You don't have to sink to that level. You can do work that matters. You can say things that matter. You can have relationships that matter. You can work on things to make the world better. Don't make the world worse. Don't sink us down into a pit. We're already, our oceans, our air, we have enough problems. The Ukraine, the Syria, we have enough problems. The Congo, the Eritrea, we have enough problems. Don't worry about it. What you need to do is find something that you can do something about. Make a meaningful contribution. Try to ameliorate suffering. Try to make someone's life better. Try to help liberate someone of faith. Do what you can do and be honest and sincere. And if you do that, and if you're truly honest and sincere, we can surmount these problems. We can get over these problems. We can all do this. We're in this together. So thanks.
Yep.
Thanks for what you're doing, and thanks for helping me. I appreciate it.
No, anytime, man. Anytime,
Thank
man.
you,
You're
Peter.
great. And I would
Thank
love
you.
to have you back on the show. Paul, you got anything to say?
No, I just wanted to thank him. I think everything he said, I mean, a lot of what he said, I pretty much in line. I really hope that religion dies out, because it just destroys things. So I really thank you, Peter, for coming on and being willing to answer some questions.
And
Great.
thank you for your book. I definitely, and I will plug that as hard as I can, man, when I make this
Thanks.
video, and I'll put it on the website and everything like that. And I'll be in contact with you in the background here, and we'll have a little chat through email to get all the links and everything. And I'll send you the final cut and everything so you can promote it. And I'll cut out
Great,
that.
thanks. I'm
cut
going
that
on a tour of Texas, Florida, North Carolina, etc. Tuesday. So
Oh, sweet.
between now and after then, my life is pretty much chaotic. But again, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Everybody,
if you guys need anything, let me know, man.
No, Peter, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody in the chat room right now, thumbs up. We have well over 100 people here. Thank you, Peter, for coming, man. Thumbs up for Peter. Great interview, man. I appreciate it, sir.
My pleasure. You guys have a good night. I'm going to hang up.
You too, sir. Take
Good night.
care. Bye.
All right, later.
Take care.